Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Nice. So if you remember, so the last class we have discussed about the system reliability, if it is a series system, how to calculate, parallel system, what calculate. But in reality, it will be very difficult because the random variables may be correlated, all kinds of issues are there. So finally we said we can obtain some kind of bounds also, like, what is the lowest bound of the probability of failure, the highest maximum, the lower bound, upper bounds also we can calculate, okay. And then of course in reality, we will be having a systems which are hybrid, that is a combination of both series and parallel also. So you can easily calculate from these methodologies also, or at least the bounds basically, okay. So we have seen for a series system what is the lower bound, what is the upper bound, we have calculated. Then even parallel systems, say how to calculate these bounds, and if they're all equally correlated also, there are some formulas are available basically, okay. So one can use these type of formulas to calculate the probability of failure, and once you know probability of failure, you can calculate our reliability indices also, okay. So this is the way which we can use to solve this system reliability, okay. So now the next one, say, so now let us see, suppose now whatever we have done until now, say our performance function, basically this g of x is known basically, okay, or the functional form is we are assuming that it is known, that is a closed form itself. So like a beam, that fy into z minus m, like that, the closed form is known basically. So if it is known, say explicitly known, okay, so we call this as explicitly, the performance function is known. So now we can calculate the the reliability indices and all other things you can do. Now in many of the cases, if the performance function is implicit basically, okay. So implicit means, we don't know the closed form. We know the performance function, but we don't know the closed form. So like, for example, if I have any, the multi-degree, say like you see a single, some building is there, say, okay. So let us say it has some base or whatever this we are having. Now let us say I want to find out its earthquake response basically. Okay, so small earthquake response or something. Now I will say that my performance function, say, is basically some the displacement at this point. Okay, so this is my main displacement at this node, minus some requirement, like we say some 0.9, some L by 180, whatever we have. This is my performance function, say. So now this u2 is, so because it is a time history analysis, so u2 also will be function of time. So let us say this u2 max minus 0.9. So now this is my performance function, and I want to calculate the probability of fail, or the beta basically, okay. So now how do we handle these type of cases also? Like, my performance function is not known, like, fy into z or something like that, but we have only, something like, you can calculate, but you don't have the explicit, the expression itself. Not only in this earthquakes, generally, if you want to solve a multi-story or this simple framed structure, say, let us say it is subjected to dead load, the wind load is there and all other things are there. So dead load, live load, the wind load is there, and then, and let us say the dead load, live load, wind load, and then, the Young's modulus, say, are all random variables, okay. Variables. Now if I want to find out the performance function is like this, okay. If I write like this, so displacement at this node, okay, so 1 2 3 4, say. So displacement at this is some minus 0.9 or whatever, it should not exceed. So this is my performance function. So generally, how do we calculate this displacements in this type of frames? Now see, how do we calculate right now? How are you calculating these displacements? If I give a framed structure, so if I want to calculate displacement or stresses or whatever, so what methods we use right now? Do you have any closed form solution for this u3? So where you are having dead load, live load, wind load, and all other things are there. So how do you calculate this u3? So right now, how are you calculating, these type displacements? If I give a framed structure, see what methods you use in a static analysis. No. So do you have a closed form solution for U3? How do you calculate these issues? What methods you use? What methods you have studied in your UG or PG? No. See, how do you calculate a simple frame? You know, if I want to calculate under a dead load, live load, wind load, so what methods you are using right now? See, any of you remember what methods you are using right now, you know, in our designs, like many of you may know our lab, you see, we'll be designing buildings and other, you know, bridge design, that design, this design, say, what methods we are using right now to find out displacements or stresses or anything, what methods you are using? How are you solving? Say, like, for example, this problem, if you want to solve, say, subjected to earthquake or whatever wind load, so what methods you are using right now? No. How are you solving? Do you are solving any equation of motion, or how are you solving these type of problems right now? No. What methods you are using? So you are there, right, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what methods you are using right now? You know, how do you solve a frame structure?
Portal frame.
So portal, I don't know. Your voice is not that audible. See, portal frame only. What method? What methods you have studied in your analysis in your UG? You know, nah. See, you will study mechanics and metal structure analysis. Some simple things you will study. But when it comes to advanced structure analysis, what is the method you use? Nah. What methods you use? You followed the matrix methods you have studied, right? Stiffness method, then you have flexibility method, and then finally, you know, you all of you will use. No. See, this is a finite element method or something, right? Now, I suppose SAP software you followed, right? So you are using, you know, all kinds of Abacus or ANSYS or whatever, say. So there are some softwares also, stiffness method, matrix methods you are using, and then you are solving also. So when you use these type of methods, say, so now what happens is, so this displacement basically, that is U3 or whatever. So whether you will have something like a closed form expression, you know, we don't have anything like a closed form expression, you see PL by AE or anything like that. So this will come from your matrix methods or some type of a software. If it is a non-linearity, if it is there, say, you will run it in finite elements or Abacus simulations or something, you know, you try to do like this problem, say, if you want to solve this to an earthquake excitation, so you have to do nonlinear structure analysis, you have to run from a software. So now, so what happens is, so your displacements or whatever, say, so our essentially this is a performance function is not known explicitly. Basically, it is only known you know, implicit. Okay, so this is you know, how to, so this is how, you know, the problem what happens in real situations basically. Okay, so in reality, so nowadays everybody uses softwares and others, you know, so we don't have closed form kind of a thing. Now, what's the problem if it is implicit? Now, what is our main problem if the performance function is implicit, say? Now, how do we calculate, you know, the reliability indices? So what is the major problem here? So when things are implicit, so what is the problem you will see to estimate reliability, say, for these type of problems? Are the simple framed structures. I will say that, you know, dead load, live load, wind load, Young's modulus, or whatever, they are all random variables. Okay. And now if I want to ask you to calculate the probability, this reliability index or probability of failure, say, given all that's properties, mean, standard deviation, and others, and this is my performance function, say. Okay. Now what is the main problem you will see? How do you calculate reliability for these type of cases, or where the problem lies here? So what's the problem basically when you for these type of problems? So how do we calculate reliability index? Previously that Hasofer, Lind, I have explained you, right? So what is the procedure here? So if you see, I think we have written the steps also. Okay, so many previously also we have written the steps and others also, like Rackwidge this procedure, or Hasofer, Lind this reliability index, say. So now what is the problem you will force, you know, see here? What is the main problem you see here? So this is a procedure to calculate reliability index. Whether it is a non-linear, linear, or explicit or implicit, the procedure remains the same. But what is the main problem here? So can any of one of you point out? So this is not available to you in explicitly. Okay, we don't have this type of things. We have only implicit functional form is there. So what is the main problem? And so procedure remains the same. What is the main problem here? Where do you see the main challenge here? You can calculate the this function, but what is the most important problem you can see for these type of issues? Can anybody point out? So which step will be a problem? Okay, in case for this type of cases.
Design points, it won't be easy to get design point.
Design point, what is a problem for you for the design point? See, we have dead load, live load, wind load, whatever say. Initial design point, you can assume it to be the mean values. Okay, so that is not an issue. Design points is easily you can calculate. What is the other and most important thing? You see the steps and tell me where your problem lies, which is the most important, which is the most difficult step.
The fourth step.
What is the fourth step?
Finding the partial derivative.
Excellent. Okay, so this is a partial derivative you have to calculate basically. Now, if you know explicit, say like this problem we solved, right? Say like for example, this continuous beam problem. Say now if you see here, your this G, that is a performance function. Say basically it is an explicit format actually. You know the functional form. You have all the random variables like W, L, EI, L, everything is there. So now you can, if this is an explicit, the functional form. So if it is explicit, say, I can easily calculate the derivatives. Okay, so that's what you see we did dou G by, dou Z1. So all these things can be easily be calculated actually. Now in the same problem, say, if I don't know this expression here, okay, so this is not known, say, and W, E, I, all of them are random variables here. Now the problem is how do I compute, so I have, so this is not known, say, so my thing is L by 360 minus some displacement actually. Okay, so this is my performance function. Now I have to find out dou G by dou W. I have to find out dou G by dou E and dou G by dou I, say. Okay, now I don't know this expression at all, 0.0069 or something like that. So this is coming from my SAP software or some matrix method or some analysis I have done. I am getting this one, say. Now how do I find out this derivative basically? So if I don't find out my derivatives, dou G by dou W, dou G by this expression itself, then I can't do my reliability analysis, because for reliability, so the most important thing are this partial derivatives. Okay, other steps are also fine only. Initial design point, it's not a big deal, you follow, right? That is anyway one can do it. But the partial derivatives, if I don't know partial derivative, then I cannot calculate beta, then I cannot do any of this the entire process itself. So the most important step is the derivatives basically. That is the derivatives with respect to the basic random variables. Okay, so which we have done previously also. So dou G by we have calculated these derivatives dou G by dou Z1. So here we had the closed form. So we can calculate you see the derivatives analytically because of the explicit case. If the things are not known, then we will have a problem basically. Okay, so that is the most important step itself. So the explicit or implicit, say, both are procedure is not going to change. Series system, parallel system, system reliability, all are going to find same itself. But the only problem is how do I calculate the derivatives is the big issue. So this is the most important problem. And of course, in practically, in many of the practical cases, say, we don't have, we don't use nowadays, nobody does, you see, by analytical or something. So you will do it in a SAP software or whatever, some other softwares, it's a nonlinear finite element or whatever. So we don't have this luxury itself. So this is the most important problem, so how do we calculate the derivatives? Okay, or the derivatives basically. So the derivatives of the performance functions, say, with respect to the basic random variables. So this is the most important step. Okay, other things all remain same itself. So now this is the most important thing with the practical, the difficulty. Okay, so whatever problems we have solved previously are all like, the toy problems. Okay, but in reality, you don't have this luxury itself. Now, how do we solve this problem? So when things are not, when the things are implicit, and then this one say. So what is the easiest way to do this one? Now, how do we calculate say in this type of implicit cases? Now, so for implicit, so we have the problem of this derivatives. So for implicit performance functions, say, no. So how do we calculate the reliability index for this expression? No. What are the methods? What's the easiest way to calculate for this type of problems? So you can't find the derivatives. Okay. So if you cannot find the derivatives, what's the easiest way to do this? How to calculate in this such type of cases? No. Which method you will use? Which method you will use? So the performance function is implicit. You don't know how to calculate derivatives. Say, what is the easiest way? So in this cases, which method is very useful? See, we have discussed
numerical methods.
the numerical. What numerical method?
Discretization, Runge-Kutta method.
The Runge-Kutta method, how, I am talking about the reliability index. See, how to calculate the reliability index or probability of failure. Now I am saying that you can't find out derivatives. Okay, so derivatives are not available to you, say. So now what is the easiest way to calculate? Bypassing this methodology itself.
By generating the number of data points.
No, data points is when what method? We have already discussed, previously. When we discussed reliability before starting. Monte Carlo simulation, excellent. You followed, right? This is the easiest way. Now, what do we do in Monte Carlo simulation? So whether it is implicit or explicit, it don't matter, right? So suppose for this one say. So now how do you calculate Monte Carlo? So what you will do? You will generate, let us say, dead load, live load, wind load. Your Young's modulus, all of them are random. Say you generate, 10,000 or 1 lakh random numbers. Okay, random numbers for D, random numbers for L, W, and E. So 10,000 samples you generate basically. Okay, so once you have generated 10,000 samples, you say. So for each sample, you have to run your software basically. Okay, your SAP or whatever software or matrix method, whatever you have, say. So 10,000 times you just run the software, and then you find out how out of this 10,000 samples, say how many samples are failing actually. So let us say 10 samples have failed, or that means for 10 samples, say. So your performance function is less than 0 or whatever we have, say. So that probability of failure will be 10 by 10,000 actually. So this is my probability of failure. And once you know the probability of failures, I can easily calculate my beta also, that phi inverse of P of F or whatever you see. You substitute in that expression, say, you can calculate the reliability index. So this is a straightforward case actually. Okay, so if you don't know any, if you cannot find out the derivatives, and you don't know how to calculate these performance functions, or the implicit and other things are there, the easiest way is this Monte Carlo simulation actually. Okay, so like for this simple problem, that is the problem whatever we will this simple problem. Okay, so the simple portal frame, say. Okay, so you are having a dead load and live load, both of them are random. So D plus L, and this is W, that is a wind load. So we are having the nodes. So 1, 2, then 3, and then 4. So this is some 30, so this problem has been given in that book only. Okay, and this is a 15 inches, say, whatever. Okay, so this problem you can easily solve it in your software. So D is random, L is random, W is random, E is also random. Okay, so the mean values are they have given, and then coefficient of variation basically. Okay, so the, and of course the type of random variable also we have to give. So this is 3.15, say, and length is 0.91, and then W is 7.425, and then E is 29,000 KSI. So these are the units here. So 0.1, 0.32, 0.5, then 0.06, and this is a normal distribution, and this is a type 1. Okay, and this is type 1. and this is normal distribution set. Okay, so these are the 4 random variables, and these are all not normal random variables also. So the easiest way is you generate some 10,000 10,000 or you follow, right, more number of samples, and then for each sample you find out g of x. So the performance function in this case is the same, I think, whatever we have written here. So g of x, this is a performance function, is u2, that is a displacement at node 2. Sorry, this 0.9 minus minus u2. So this is our performance function. So the easiest way is you generate some 10,000 samples. Okay, so 10,000 samples you generate in a random number generator you use corresponding to their distribution, and then you perform analysis. Okay, so 10,000 times you have to run your software, and then out of this 10,000 times you find out how many times g of x is less than 0, and then you can easily find out. So probability of g of x is less than 0 is given by using this nf by n actual. So this turns out to be for this problem say 0.0646 actual. So this is the probability of failure basically. So now once you know probability of failure, you can also calculate our reliability index, that is a phi inverse of P of f, and you can find out these numbers also. Okay, so this Monte Carlo simulation is straightforward, and it is very simple. So just instead of doing one analysis, you may have to run your software 10,000 times, and you can calculate your probability of failure also. The advantage is whatever random variable they are, whatever whether your performance function is implicit or explicit or whatever, and there is no need to calculate any derivatives also. That is the main advantage of this Monte Carlo simulation. But what is the main negative thing with this Monte Carlo simulation? What is the main disadvantage?
You have to opt for like higher number of simulations.
Yeah, so a higher number of simulations. See, like for example, the simple portal frame, maybe your computer may give this one. Suppose if you have a multi-story building and if there is a non-linearity, say, and then you have to do there's a time history analysis and other things are there. So just one simulation itself may take 1 hour, say. Then if you are running for a 10,000 times means so you have to do 10,000 hours basically. So 10,000 hours means you calculate how many days it is required divided by 24, so it is basically, very time consuming. Okay. So it is a time consuming, and then, full bridge analysis or whatever, say one simulation itself takes a lot of time. And if you want to do 10,000 or 1 lakh, and because if the probability of failures are very low, long back we have said you have to do the simulations more number of times. So 1 lakhs or 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs, then it completely breaks down actually. Okay, so although this Monte Carlo simulation is very simple, very straightforward for to solve this type of problem, but in practical situations, it is very complicated for in realistic problems. Okay, this is the main negative thing. So now to solve this problem, so there is another method is there. Okay, that is what we call as the response surface method. So response surface approach, or sometimes they also call this as RSM. So response surface. So this is also a method basically. Okay, so which is they say like this method came into picture, say, to solve these problems. So the most important problem is the why we are going to Monte Carlo simulation or whatever we are doing. The most important thing is to calculate the derivatives only. So this is the most important problem. And now to calculate the derivative, you require the functional form of g of x basically. Okay, so how it is connected to the random variable, then only you can do that. You cannot do in realistic situations. That's why. So this method, response surface method, the idea is if I can estimate. Okay, so if we can estimate, say, this g of x from some simulations, from some simulation from some samples. Okay, so we try to estimate g of x from simulation. So what to do is you do your analysis not 10,000 times like in Monte Carlo simulation. You do some 4 times or 5 times, changing one parameter or whatever. So you estimate g of x for several some simple simulations, say, and then you approximate. Okay, so you approximate g of x through some kind of polynomial, the expressions basically. Okay, so some polynomial closed form solutions. So from approximations basically we do. So you fit some kind of a polynomials basically. So this if I can do, if I can approximate this g of x in terms of some polynomials, by doing some type of small simulations and fitting some kind of a curve to your data. So now once the g of x is known, say in terms of polynomials, then the calculation of derivatives becomes very simple. Okay, so the derivatives, it becomes very straightforward. Okay. So now, so then, so you can use that same Haushofer-Lind, whatever approaches you can find out. So you can find out the derivatives, and then you can once again the same methodology, whatever we have discussed previously, same things can be used here itself. Okay, so this is the advantage of this response surface approach. So the steps are as follows actually. Okay, so the first step in this method is so first thing is you have to select your random variables, sets of random variables. You have to select a set of the random variables to evaluate the performance function. So this is the first step, g of x. Okay, so this methodology so this comes under design of experiments. Now we will explain this in a little bit detail. Okay, so what you can do is the factorial design. There are so many methods are there. Okay. So what we try to do is so now so now let us say we are having a random variables, say x1, x2, x3, x4, like this. Several random variables are there. Now for each random variables, so for each random variable, okay, so you consider 2 or 3 values, 2 or 3 values, and then evaluate the performance function. Okay, so you find out this performance function. So now and then for all possible combinations, okay, you find out 2 or 3 values for all the combinations. Okay, so now the number of combinations will be okay, so it will be something like 2 to the power of n will be there. So like for example, if I have 4 random variables, say, so now you may have to do 2 to the power of 4, 16 simulations you may have to do carry out in your analysis also. And then you can select this number, these values are also at mu plus or minus k times sigma. So this you have to do. So like in this problem set, see how many random variables are there here. So there are 4 random variables are there. Now what we are trying to do, its mean value, its standard deviation, everything is known to you. So what we try to do is this dead load, whatever dead load is there, say I will take 2 values basically. So one value is 3.15 plus sigma, and other one is 3.15 minus sigma itself. Okay, so it is something like this. 3.15 plus sigma and then 3.15 minus sigma. So these are the 2 points of dead load. Okay. Now similarly live load is there, say. So this also will be point whatever is the 0.9 this one plus sigma and then 0.9 minus sigma, say. So like this I have how many points are there, 1 2 3 4, then 5 6 7 8 points will be there. Okay, and now I have to calculate for all these possible combinations. So like 3.15 plus sigma and 0.9 minus sigma are this combination, say what is the value of my performance function. So that has to be calculated. Now for this combination, so all possible combinations I have to evaluate my performance function. So now suppose if you are doing second order, or if you are going for higher order performance functions also, so then instead of 2 values you may have to use a 3 value or 4 values or 5 values, then the points also will increase basically. Okay, so now the step 2, say So first of all, you have to decide these combinations. So now you have to evaluate the performance function. So g of x is using the deterministic analysis. Okay, so for all sets of the random variables. So this you have to evaluate. And now what you have to do is, so now the step 3. So one, you know the performance function for all these combinations. Now you construct, so now you fit a polynomial basically to this database. This generated performance, whatever values is there. So now you fit this one. And now the step 4 is straightforward. Once you know the performance function explicitly, say, because it is in terms of a polynomial. So now you calculate your, the reliability indices. Okay, using that whatever form, SOM, whatever methods we have discussed as a Rack-Widge procedure or whatever methods are there. So you can use this type of procedures, and then you can calculate our this function. So now here, so this problem, let us see, that is the same problem. So this is a portal frame problem, whatever we have solved. So using this approach, say, okay. So we have dead load, and then this will same thing, all the things we have given here. So now here basically 4 random variables are there. Okay, so D, L, W, and then 4 random variables are there. And then we will not go into detailed analysis here. So now, so 2 to the power of 4. So 16, the combinations have to be found out actually. Okay. So now, as already I told you, you will take mu plus sigma, then mu minus sigma for all these random variables itself. So now you will generate 16 sets actually. So 16 sets of, the performance function has to be generated. Okay. So now once you do this one, so now we have to fit a polynomial for the performance function. So this is a simple problem. So 60, so we will fit only just a simple equation. Say. So we will fit a polynomial like b0 plus b1 times d plus b2 times L plus b3 times W plus b4 times, the E. So this is a polynomial. It is just a linear, the approximation we have fitted basically. Okay. So now you have to calculate the constants. Now, so B0, B1, B2, B3, and then B4 from the 16, the samples. Now, so now here you follow, right? So there is a sometimes, so now we have taken only, so now you are having 16 simulations. That is 16 samples of g of x you have for various combinations of D, L, W, and then E. So now for this data, we are fitting a model here basically. So I think in the book they have given some combinations are there. So I will just write some few combinations. Other things you can refer. So dead load, live load, say this one E, and then our perform that U2. Okay, so this is some combinations they have given. So this is a first combination, say. So 3.465, that is a plus or minus sigma has been taken. So 1.2012, 11.1375, 30740. So for this combination, you run your software and you calculate U2. Okay. Now other combination you have to do. So one component you change. So 2.835 and then 1.2012. Then 11.1375, then 30740. So you can see, so what is, and this value will be 0.6829 actually. Okay. So now this combination, say, what is that we have done here? So dead load has been live load, WE are all constants. Only thing is you have varied the dead load actual. Okay. So one M plus sigma, M minus sigma. What was the M value here? So mean value was 3.15. Coefficient of variation, that is mu by sigma, is here. You can easily calculate that sigma value. So we have taken mu plus sigma, mu minus sigma. Okay, so you have calculated for this combination. So these they are all kept constant. Only dead load you vary at mu plus sigma, m minus sigma. You calculate U2. Now the next combination you have to see. The third combination, say, so 3. Let us say 465. Now dead load you have varied. Now you have to vary this one 6188. Other one is 11.1375 and then 30740. So for this combination also you get 0.6829 actually. Okay. Now another combination, say, so here we have changed only the live load, dead load remains, that everything remains same. Now the fourth combination is 3.465, then 1.2012, 3.7125, and then 30,000, 740. 0.2269. So this is the value you get actually. And the fifth combination, say, so this one will be, sorry. On the fifth combination, you see the dead load remains the same. This also remains the same, 1.2012. That 11 point this one 1375 and this one 27260. So you only vary this portion. Okay, so 0.7699. So like this, you have 2 values are there. So 2 values of m plus sigma, m minus sigma. Here also you have m plus sigma, m minus sigma. So like that you are having these values. So now the 4 are there. So 2 to the power of 4. So 16 combinations will come. So for all the 16 combinations, you find out our U2 itself. So now our performance function is already we have written, right? Our performance function was this 0.9. So our performance function was 0.9 minus U2. Okay, so you subtract all these U2 from this 0.9. So you will get our g of x also. So you substitute 0.9 minus U2. So you will get our g of x also. So now g of x also you will have some 16 sets of combinations will be there. And then finally, for the 16 sets, you have to fit this type of a function. Okay. So this function you have to fit actually. Now suppose if you how many unknowns are there here, only 3, 4, 5 unknowns are there and you are having 16 sets basically. So data is more than your number of unknowns. So you have to do a regression analysis. Okay, so do regression. So all of you know how to do this regression analysis. This is simply regression analysis you do because the functional form is linear. No, you can do a simple linear regression. And you find out the coefficients b0, b1, b2, all these numbers here. So this problem, say, so g of x turns out to be 0.416 plus 0.00022 times d minus 0.0024 times L, 0.06531 times W, and minus 1.67 into 10 to the power of minus 5 times E. So this is the functional form. So now previously our it was available in implicit form. Now we have an explicit this performance function we have derived from our simulations here. Now once you know the functional form, say, then it is very easy. You can do Monte Carlo, or you can use that Haushofer-Lind reliability method. You can easily find out the derivatives, dou g by dou d, dou g by dou L. See, what is the dou g by dou d in this case with respect to dead load? What's the derivative?
0.0002.
So it is a straightforward. Actually, you have directly got the derivative itself. Okay. So once you have the derivatives, you say, then you just substitute and you calculate reliability index, and you can do the same procedure itself. So this problem, if you try to use that method, so finally here the probability of failure, say, this turns out to be, I think 0.061 you will get for this problem using this linear one. Now the original Monte Carlo simulation, the same problem, if you do Monte Carlo simulation, the probability was 0.06646 basically, 0.0646. This you got from Monte Carlo simulation. So now here from this method say. So you have got 0.061. Now what is the advantage of this method compared to the Monte Carlo simulation? Now in Monte Carlo, how many simulations you have done to get 0.0646?
So 10,000.
Now here how many you have done?
So 16, 2 raised to n.
16 times you have done actual. So with 10,000 times, you know, you have got that one. Now with 16 simulations, you say, we have got this probability of failure. Of course, you know, it is slightly third decimal, you know, the things are slightly different. So if you want to improvise your things, you say, what is that you can do? No. Now, what is the functional form we have considered here for g of x? So g of x, so how we have approximated? Now, what type of polynomials we have used?
So linear polynomial.
So now if you want to improvise this one, so what is that you have to do?
So we can go for higher degree of polynomial.
Higher degree means you have to add. So b4 is b5 into d square, then b6 into l square. You followed. So you can add those things, or you can even add terms like this d into l plus b8 into d into w. You know, this cross terms also you can add. But what happens when you keep on increasing the complexity of the polynomial? Say the number of unknowns becomes very, very large. So now if you are having you know 18 unknowns are there. So let us say you have included cross term, square term, cube term, all kinds of polynomials if you have included. So if the number of unknowns are increasing, say what happens? What you have to increase? Let us say number of unknowns are 18 or you know something 20, 24 like that. We have got the number of unknowns. So now how do you solve this problem? What is that you have to do?
Now the computational effort will be more, like we have to generate a larger number of simulations we have to do.
How many simulations you have to generate?
For
So now how
18
we have
itself,
generated
it's
this one?
more than 2 lakh.
See right now how many we have taken? Combinations. Dead load, how many samples of dead load we have taken?
For each it is 2 and total 16.
Total 16. So now if you are having more number of unknowns, say, so generally what happens, your data, that is a number of data points should be more than your you know this number of the unknowns basically. Okay. So now if you are having more number of unknowns, say, so then you may have to take instead of 2 values of dead load, you may have to take 3 values of dead load. Then you know you can select like this mu plus sigma, mu and then mu minus sigma actual. Okay, so 3 values you can take. So when you are having 3 3 3 3 say, then the things becomes 3 to the power of you know the 4 itself. Or you can take 4 values of dead load basically, like you know mu plus 2 sigma, mu plus sigma, mu minus sigma, mu minus 2 sigma also. So like that you see your number of simulations also increases, and then you can fit your functional form, the higher order terms also. Then once again if you do the problem say, then maybe you know you will get an exact this itself. But the main advantage is Monte Carlo requires 10,000 times you may have to run your software. But the response surface method, you have to run only 30 times or maybe 40 times or maybe at the most 100 times itself, and you can get a very good you know estimate of the results itself. Okay, so this is the main advantage of the response surface. So response surface is nothing. What we are trying to do is the you know this performance function is not known in a closed form. Okay, explicit form is not there, you know, only in an implicit kind of a sense. So what we are trying to do is that you are just generating this g of x for several combinations, and then you are fitting some kind of a functional form. The easiest is a polynomial actual. Okay, and then you are computing the numbers itself. Okay, so this is the main essence behind this response surface methods. So generally in practice, you know, we don't use this linear type of form. So here you know we use very complicated functional forms also actual. Okay, so for response surface methods say, this type of linear we don't use, but you know, so g of x say this is our the performance function. So we can use like this a second order polynomial. Okay, there are many methods out there. So if you go up to second order, say now we have taken only first order, so we can write like this. This is an approximation of my g of x. Like you see b naught plus you know I is equal to 1 to k bi into xi, where x are the random variables and k is the number of random variables. I is equal to 1 to k. So b ii into you know xi square. So this is a second order you know the polynomial, or you can even cross terms also you can include. So some problems, you know, when cross terms are required, Now, see when cross terms are required, when they are not required. You can write like this also. I is equal to 1 to k bi into xi plus. Now I is equal to 1 to k. So we have bii into xi square. Second order is there, plus we are also including I is equal to 1 to k minus 1. J greater than 1 to k. Okay. Bij xi xj. Okay, the cross terms also. Now, when these terms have to be included, the cross terms, whether you have to include in all the problems or when it will be required. Cross terms, when you have to include.
When they are correlated.
Excellent. Okay, so when they are correlated only, you have to include. See, generally for the previous problems, whether dead load and live load are correlated, or dead load, wind load are correlated.
No, sir.
Like you have to decide. Okay, so this is our the ith random variable, so that is a correlation comes into picture also. Okay, so this is ith random variable we have, and k is the total the number of random variables. Okay, so now but what happens when you are having the cross terms also, the number of unknowns are also will be high. So here the number of unknowns, how many number of unknowns are there, how many b's are there? So how many b's are there basically? So how many b's are there? Can you approximately tell? If the random variables are k, say, if you are having k number of random variables, so how many b's will be there? See how many b's are there? So I is equal to 1 to k basically. Now this is also I is equal to 1 to k. So here also you are having k b's. There also you are having k b's. So 2 times k plus you have a constant also plus 1 actual. So these are the number of unknowns for this type of a problem. Now when you are having the cross terms, say the number of unknowns will be the number of unknowns or the number of constants or the coefficients will be k, because you will be having cross term, no? So because b, when I is equal to j, say, so this becomes bii, this term comes actually. So you have to delete those things which are not in common and other. So this turns out to be k plus 1 into k plus 2 by 2. So these are the number of unknowns actually when you include cross terms. When you don't include cross terms, it is basically 2k plus 1 itself. Now, how to find out the unknowns, say? So how to find these unknowns? So there are I hope you would have done this design of experiments basically. Okay, some statistics because it is your response surface method is more or less very close to the regression analysis. So there are so many methods are there, like if you want to find out do regression, say, like factorial design and other things are there. So generally the experimental region, so this comes under the design of experiments. So how to select these samples and other things also. So generally the experimental region we say, that is but here you are doing only experiments on the computer on your software. So experimental the region. So we define like this xi region. This is a random variable. Okay, so we take like this xi, we have a center point, okay, some mean value or whatever we have, plus h times sigma I, some small xi, where our small xc, these are xic and sigma xi, these are at the center point. And standard deviation, this is our standard deviation of the random variable, and hi is an arbitrary some factor. Okay, it in this region, and a small x size is a coded variable we say. It is nothing but a standard variate kind of thing. Okay, so we can also write this small x size, capital Xi minus xic by hi times sigma xi, where I runs from 1 to like this up to k. So this is our experimental region basically. So like you see, you have to select your points, say, like where you are going to evaluate the performance function through this, this is a guideline. Like I told you, right, in the previous problem also we have taken m plus sigma, m minus sigma, or you can take m plus 2 times sigma, or m minus 2 times sigma, or m value itself. Say that is how this experimental region has to be fixed up. So this is the first thing. So now here also we are having so many, how to select this one. There are so many methods are there. Design of experiment. So that is one is a saturated design. So two methods are widely used. So this saturated design method is such that your number of constants or the number of unknowns. Okay, the number of constants are the unknowns in our performance function. Okay, in the performance function. So this should be same as the number of the design points. Okay, so this we are not going to violate actually. See, like for example, say suppose if the 4 unknowns are there, how many equations you require to solve? Now, to find out 4 unknowns, say, but how many minimum number of equations you should have?
4.
4. Okay, so then it becomes a linear, the equation itself. So this is what we call as the saturated, the design itself. So where you will see like the number of constants will be same as this itself. So like for example, say if you are using this functional form, now how many design points are required? So I will use the second order polynomial. So now my unknowns are 2k plus 1. Now how many design points I should have?
2k plus 1.
That's all only. Now suppose if I am using this functional form to my data set. So the number of unknowns I know this is a k plus 1 into k plus 2 by 2. Okay. So now how many samples are required? How many equations I require? Now how many equations you require? How many design points you require? Same as if it is a saturated design, say
same as number of unknowns.
This is k plus 2 by 2 itself. Okay. So now for a 3D set, that is a guideline we have. So if you are having a 3D, so there are some guidelines are there. So this is our 3D. So if you take a cube. So like I said, there are 3 random variables are there, x1, then x2, then x3. Okay, so this is the center point basically. Okay, this is my center point is exactly here. So this is my center point here. Okay. Now I will select the value such thing like this. So this is my, so I will select my point, 1 point here, then 1 point, this side also. Basically I have 1 point here. Okay, so I have 1 point, this side, and another point this side, and we have this point also, and other side also we have a point here itself. Okay, so this is how we select our points. So this is for no cross. Okay, so now how many random variables we are having? 3 random variables are there. Okay, x1, x2, x3, and my number of unknowns are 2k plus 1. Okay, so 2k plus 1 means how many things are there? 2 3s are 6, 6 plus 1, 7 unknowns are there. So now how many points are required? 7 points are required basically. So what are those 7 points? So this point, that is m plus sigma, m minus sigma around this one. So 1, 2. So how many are there here? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the center point. So total you are having 7 unknowns, and the 7 points are there. So it is something like you have m plus sigma and m minus sigma of x1, then m plus sigma of m minus sigma of x3, m plus sigma, m minus sigma of x2, and then we have the center point. So that gives to me automatically this 7 points itself, and then you can solve your this thing itself. So this is what you see. There are no cross terms to say. So you will take your simulations like this actually. So at these 7 points, you do your simulation. You calculate your g of x. Once you know your g of x, say at those 7 points, you fit this type of a function. So k is equal to 3 random variables are there. So you will become b naught plus you see b1 x1 plus b2 x2 plus b3 x3 plus we have b4 x1 square plus b5 x2 square plus b6 x3 square actual. So total including the b naught, you are having 7 unknowns. So you evaluate your g of x at all these 7 points, and then you do, you fit the polynomial. There is no fitting here because number of unknowns, number of design points are same. So you equate, you solve for this b's, and then you know your g of x, and then you find out the derivatives, you follow it, you can do the same procedure and you will get the solutions also. Now when there are cross terms are there, say, so when there are cross terms, your number of unknowns will be more basically. So like for example, for 3 random variables, okay, so how many number of unknowns are there when there are cross terms? K plus 1 into k plus 2 by 2. Yeah, so how many unknowns are there when there are cross terms? See how many number of unknowns are there when there are cross terms?
10.
Same. See k plus
10,
1.
sir. The 10.
3 plus 1, that is a 4 by 2, then 3 plus 2. So there are basically 10 constants are there. Okay. So when there are 10 constants are there, say, okay. So now where will be our points is the issue. So now you are having cross terms also. So now what happens when you are having the cross terms? So now where will be our design points? So now original points was 1 point is at the center basically, okay, and then we are having this m plus sigma, this point, and then this point, this side also we have, and this side also we have. So total the old points. So 7 points are there. Now we have to get some extra points also, that is a cross term. So what is that we will try to do? Where will be our cross terms? So we will take this point also, that is this one combination of x1 and x3. So this is my coordinate system, say. So this is my coordinate system, say x1, then x3, and then x2. So I have a combination basically. So x1, x3, one combination I will take here. Then I will take one combination here also. So this combination is for x1 and x2 here. Then I will take one more combination, which is a combination of x3 and then x2 also. Okay, so total 7 plus 3 combinations are there. So this point I will select one combination of x1, x3, then x1, x2, then x2, x3 actually. Okay, so I will put my constants here. So totally, I will be having 10 constants. So now what all these 10 constants are? So you evaluate your functional form, and then you find out all the constants, and then you do your reliability analysis also. Okay, so this is another source. This is what we call as the saturated design, the philosophy, which is widely used in practice actually. Now another terms also has come, that is a CCD, we say central composite design. Okay, so we have this design philosophy also, central composite design we say. So this is something like your number of the equations basically, or the number of the design points, say. Okay, the number of design points are more than the number of constants. Okay, so like for example, if there are 7 constants are there, say, now in the saturated design we will take only 7 points, but in central composite design, say, this will be more than the design points will be like this is 17 or 20 or whatever, they will be more than your number of constants. So when your number of equations are more than the number of constants, say, so now you have to do regression analysis. Okay. And this method, say, it was introduced by Box and Wilson actually. Okay, in 1951. So and then you use this procedure, say, so to fit a functional form. So it is already there in the MATLAB. You can easily go through this one. So you can see this one. You are able to see.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now you can see. So now this is a they do this type of central composite design, whatever we said. So now how many design points are there? Can you see here? So this is basically 3 random variables are there. So where are his points here? Now, how many points he has taken? So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 sides of the cube he has taken basically. Okay, or these are anyway the points are there. Now if there are 3 random variables, so now you can see 1 point here, 1 point here. We have taken these 4 sides, the 8 sides are there. Plus he has taken 1 point here above this, the combination itself here, 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 here. So now what happens is, your number of equations will be more than your number of unknowns. So this is one type circumscribed, they say, then inscribed basically. Okay, so that is, you are putting inside here itself. So like this, we have several central composite design will be there, but the philosophy is very, very simple. Just your number of design points will be more than your number of, the unknowns. That's all. That is a basic concept. So MATLAB has already, if you give it in MATLAB, say, it will give you the design points also. So you have to take m plus sigma, m minus sigma, you may have to take m plus 2 sigma also. So it gives you this type of concept, this type of designs itself. So now using these designs, say, now, you do our calculations basically. Okay. So this is what we call as Box and Wilson's approach also. So the number of unknowns will be much, much more than basically. So they say that, if it is a 2 to the power of k design, say, factorial design or whatever they say. So the number of unknowns will be, the design points is some 2 to the power of k plus 2k plus 1. Okay, the number of design points. Okay, so these are some guidelines are there. Okay, so like you say, so the philosophy is more number of the design points than more than this itself. So now you do this one, and then you see you calculate our the reliability analysis itself. So the reliability analysis is very simple. So like I will just the 2-dimensional thing we will see x1 and then x2 now. So what is that you will try to do? The first thing is you estimate your center point. Let us say my mean value itself is my center point, say. Using this mean value of x1 and x2, say, you will simulate, okay, m plus sigma, m minus sigma, m plus sigma, or m minus sigma. You will construct our, the performance function. So let us say this is my approximated at the first iteration, basically g1 of x, and then you will find out my design point also. So this is my design point. You calculate from our that old Haushofer-Lind procedure we have. Now once you have this expression, so now in Haushofer-Lind procedure also, what we have told was it was all iterative basically. Okay, so you find out design point, you calculate your reliability index, then you go back this one iterative kind of a format you have to do. So now you find out other center points, xc2, and then you calculate the next design point here. So somewhere once again you have to do this calculation. Okay, so this is our second approximation, say. So this is my g2 of x. Okay, so you calculate my second the design point here xd2. Now once again you find out xc3, the another center point, and once again you calculate another design point somewhere it should match this one. So like this in iterative fashion, you have to do your reliability analysis. So some guidelines are there, like the next center point basically how to take. Once the original center point, so xc1 xd1 minus xc1 multiplied by g of xc1 by using g of xc1 minus g of xd1. Okay, so that is just a linear interpolation has to be done to find out the center point each time. So if this is valid, if g of xd1, say, is greater than or equal to g of xc1 actually. Otherwise you have to do other way around. xc2 is xd1, okay, plus xc1 minus xd1 multiplied by g of xd1 divided by g of xd1 minus g of xc1 actually. Okay, if g of xd1, say, is less than g of xc1. Okay, so this way you have to do calculate the center points, and then you have to recalculate your whole reliability analysis itself. So here the starting thing is, so you have to assume the starting point. So the center point we assume as the same mean values only. Okay, so from the mean values, we will take m plus sigma, m minus sigma, or m plus sigma, m plus m minus sigma, or m plus 2 sigma, m plus sigma, 5 points or 6 points depending on your cubic or the complicated, the performance, whatever you are going to fit this one. So using that one, you start this one, you find out your g of x, and once you know g of x is, you calculate your design point, and then you calculate reliability index, and then you have to repeat this procedure like we have explained right previously, that Hasofer, Lind, so if you go through those old, the slides, where is that one? Please. So this is our procedure actual, okay? So which we have already said this one, okay? So you have to formulate, you see. So now once you know the limit state, this function say from our response surface method, so you obtain initial design point. So this you are calculating assuming some xc1, okay? So this thing you calculate those things, and you have fitted a functional form b naught x square or cross terms or whatever. Then you obtain initial design point, and then you do reduced variates, and then you do the partial derivative, and you calculate all the new design points. You have to calculate actual. Now once you know the new design points, now new design points will come. So once again you have to calculate your xc2, and then once again you have to shift everything, and when this goes in a loop kind of a thing until your reliability indices, your g of x, the design points, all of them will converge to some well-known, some nice values itself. So the procedure is very simple and straightforward. Only thing is it is very you can't do it on a pencil and paper, but this can be easily be done. You can write a small MATLAB or whatever code, and then you can get this interesting results itself. So this is how the response surface method works, but you have to do it in iterative fashion, and for each iteration you have to fit a functional form, you have to do these calculations, and then you can keep on doing this procedure itself. So this is widely used the procedure in reliability theory, whether in linear or non-linear, many methods are there. So this procedure works nicely in practice actually, okay. Now, what is the other way to calculate derivatives? See, Monte Carlo we have seen, response surface method we have seen. Now, what we are saying is we are trying to say that the most important thing is the derivative calculation is the very, the most problematic thing. So, how do we calculate derivatives? What's the easiest way to calculate derivative, dou g by dou xi and others? Any alternate things are there? So, how do we calculate derivative? These type of partial derivatives. So what's the other way, alternative way apart from these methods? What is the other alternative way to calculate derivatives? Do you know this finite difference method? See, have you heard finite difference method?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so finite difference also, how do you calculate finite difference method? It's very simple, right? What do you do whenever you see a partial derivative, say like for example, dg by some dx. So this derivative you have to calculate. So what do you do? Limit delta x tends to 0. You substitute dg in terms of delta g, and then by delta x actually followed. So these type of expressions you use. So this is a simple procedure actually. So you evaluate the function, you slightly, instead if you are having f of x, say, you calculate at f of x plus h actual, okay, and then you substitute, you subtract this one divided by the h, say. So automatically, you will get the derivative also. This is also another alternative, a finite difference method is there. Then apart from that, we also have this perturbation techniques actually. Okay, so the perturbation techniques also we have. And these methods goes towards stochastic finite elements. You followed. So like this, this stochastic finite elements also, comes into our picture itself. Okay. So I will stop here and we will continue in our next class. So the next class, we will see this finite difference, and then finite difference is very simple, straightforward. We will jump towards this stochastic finite elements also. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can ask me.